All right. Any better? Check, check, 1, 2.
There you go.
Bingo. Good news. How you doing, Kyle?
Not too bad. A lot going on right now, so it's a little
A
exciting.
little bit.
Yeah.
There's a little stuff happening. I'll be honest with you. I haven't had, I just got home, jumped on. I'm rolling. I haven't even had a chance to take a look at things.
Well, hopefully we get to talk.
Yeah, you got to give us an update, or people you have to ask good questions. So tonight is office hours. This is open to anybody and everybody. It's free to our members and non-members. I just want to remind everybody, if you are a subscriber to the Academy and your username is in red, that means all of your questions are going to jump to the front of the line. You guys and gals get first access to ask Kyle questions. If you're not an Academy member, welcome. Your name is in green, which means you are welcome to ask questions. We'll get to them after we get to our Academy members, assuming we've got time. We've got a whole hour here to go tonight, so we should be good to rock and roll. If you look in the chat, you'll see two things. Number one, if you do have questions tonight for Kyle, go to the hashtag office hours questions channel, and that's where you'll actually ask your questions, not in the chat. The second thing you'll see is if you want to become an Academy member, I don't know why you're not. Comes out to like $7.20 a month. Folks, we're in April. This is time to be going and chasing and getting up on all the good knowledge that you need to have. And so for $7.20 a month to have access to people like Kyle and all the great coaches we've got, because you'll also have access to all their coaching sessions where they actually deep dive into certain topics. You know, tonight's just kind of the Professor Kyle has got his office door open to answer questions tonight. So that's what it's all about. So jump to office hours questions. That's where we want you asking those. And as we start getting those questions, Kyle, maybe you can give us a little update on what's going on right now tonight.
Yeah, I can do that real fast. So I guess what I could do here, Phil, is I'll just share my screen.
There we go.
Okay. You guys should see RadarScope now, right?
Got it.
You can see it. Okay. So, yeah, let's just do a bit of a zoom out here. I would just like everyone to know that if Weatherfront had a desktop application for Windows by this point, that's what we'd be.
You and me both.
Yeah, it's if I had an iPhone, I do not have an iPhone. I'm not an iPhone, but if I had one, boy, I'd have that already.
I'm thinking of getting an iPad. I've got an iPhone as well, but an iPad for the purpose of more desktop views.
That's where my
larger
head's
views
at right now.
Yep.
I'm thinking about that.
Yep.
So in any case, I guess let's just kind of look at things. I've got just the mosaic pulled up here, reflectivity mosaic. So we're not kind of going between radars for a minute, but it's pretty nice. I mean, it's pretty clear that we've got a synoptic, a really synoptically influenced system here. You've got kind of just basically a warm front in this region, probably a little further north than that. And this is, severe weather all the way from Wisconsin back here to at one time back on the South Dakota, North Dakota, or Nebraska border at one point. And then there's the dry line that's kind of extending pretty much further south here. You can see very clear, right? 81/61 here in northwestern Iowa, and then 83/41 back there in northwest Nebraska or northeast Nebraska. So we've got a really nice dry line here. And if you go further south, we're finally seeing some action here in Kansas on the dry line. Feels like it's been years. The storm looks much better than this in an actual Doppler radar site. Looks pretty pitiful here in Mosaic, but again, you can clearly see we're 90/35 way out west here, and then 82/62. So the dry line is again kind of somewhere in that region. So nice dry line initiation there in Kansas, and then further south into Oklahoma. Still waiting to see maybe if we can get something to pop here. There's not really much going on. There's been a few blips here from the Frederick, Oklahoma radar. Surprised it's up and running today. Usually it's not when there's severe weather in that area. So maybe that means there's no severe weather in that area. That's probably the forecast there, just based on whether or not this radar is up and running. And then further south into Texas, we've got a few cells that have some severe warnings on them. This one looks like a nice left mover that has some hail, a little bit of lightning in there as well. And let's see. Also trying to watch the radar here this afternoon.
Oh, there we go.
That's Frank. He's always trying to get in.
Frank wants in
on the radar business here. But yeah, so there's a nice large area of supercell potential across the United States. Of course, the focus right now is kind of this northern mode here in parts of Minnesota and Iowa. That's where we're kind of seeing the best environment synoptically. Everything further south is more contingent on whether or not we're able to get initiation along the Dryline, which of course is very difficult, and there's not a lot of synoptic support for the south. So the best synoptics are up here. We've got a really nice surface low, and I'll kind of just look at the surface observations again here. And essentially what I want to point out here is that we've got this nice southerly flow that's curving up, becoming a little bit more southeasterly here. And then you've got the northerly flow that's kind of coming down and around here. So we've got a nice low that's pretty much situated right in here somewhere. And that warm front that's kind of coming through, that's the main surface synoptic player here for the system. And you can see that right where we have that nice backing flow here from the south and southeast, along where that warm front is, that's where we have some supercells that are trying to get their act together. This particular storm here is definitely interesting. It's got a tornado warning at the moment, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm actually colorblind, but I use a red-blue color table for my velocity. Red is still away like it is normally, and blue is towards, and the Minneapolis radar is up in this direction. So, yeah, you've got a decent little supercell here. You can pretty much tell that everything is becoming tornadic pretty early. If you look at all the shapes of these storms, they all have that nice kind of kidney bean elongated look here, especially this one. Even these up here, kind of further to the north, they all have that same sort of shape. That's a good indication that these are probably supercells. Even without looking at the velocity, you can see that. I would imagine every single one of these has at least some component of a rotating updraft. And that's going to happen with the photograph that we have. So I'll kind of just like draw it here. You kind of have this like very long, low-level photograph, and then it becomes kind of elongated in the upper levels. But when you have this kind of long curved photograph in the low levels, you get a lot of streamwise vorticity for a right-moving thunderstorm in that environment, and that's going to help these storms become supercells. And then in this case, what you'll notice, just look at the warnings, right? All of these warnings are kind of pointed off in this direction, right? But this particular tornado warning is actually pointed more here. So this storm has started to move right, and you'll be able to see that if we look at a loop. Where these other storms are they don't have a strong enough area of rotation yet to turn right. So you'll see in this particular storm, as soon as it becomes tornadic, it starts to take that deviation. So if we draw this backwards, you can actually watch it. It's kind of moving in this direction. Maybe it starts to grow a little bit and get a better meso, and now it's almost doing something like this in the last few scans. So that's when we say right mover or rightward deviation. That's what we're looking for. And so it's kind of nice to see this in real time here. In this particular storm. So I'll turn the cities back on. I had them turned off here, so just add some context. If I remember how to use radar. So yeah, this looks like it's around South Branch, Minnesota at the moment. If I remember correctly, yeah, this is still radar indicated. There's not a ton of rotation on this thing at the moment. But there's also not a lot of precip on this. Remember that when the radar beam goes out, it's trying to bounce off of precipitation. So we can only really tell rotation when there's something to bounce off of, right? So even though you might think we don't really want a lot of precip in the rotating area, right? You take a warm inflow. You still got to have at least something around the RFD region and whatnot to actually pick up on that velocity. And at the moment, it doesn't look like there's too much here. So you've got a lot of flow. Again, we're pretty far from the radar here, so it's kind of hard to tell exactly what. But there's not a lot of rotation on this one yet. But given the shape and given the rightward deviation, this is clearly a supercell that has some amount of rotation. Whether or not you can actually see it in the velocity data, though. But again, you look at all these little hooks and appendages coming off here. This St. Peter storm, very clear. When you look at the shape here, right, you've got that very clear kind of supercell shape there. The same is true further to the north here. and this one down here, this Janesville storm. I mean, this is very clear. You have the elongated forward flank and then this little rear flank appendage back here. That's a very clear supercell. Not terribly strong yet, right? It's kind of elongated and stretched out. Shear's really working on it at the moment, but pretty much everything that's initiating here. I mean, even going way back to Wisconsin still, these are all certainly supercell. So I think the storms to watch right now are going to be these ones here in southern Minnesota, of course, that are just south of the warm front. And of course, when we're looking at the warm front, we're kind of looking at these observations here, cooler, less dew point, and when the wind is coming from a more northerly direction, in today's case, is going to be telling us, okay, we're probably behind the front here. So if we were to draw where the line is, you can see we have a more northerly wind here. We've got a more southeasterly wind here. So the warm front is probably right through here, more or less, probably coming right down this way to some extent, or maybe even coming down here. So anything north of that going to be primarily hail risk, even though it might look like a supercell and have a nice hook. It's probably at least to some degree elevated. You can see that the temperature and dew point up here is still not bad. Still 70 over 60. That's not terrible, but more than likely they'll be primarily producing hail. Doesn't mean they can't produce tornadoes, but primarily producing hail. While anything south of that, which in this case this storm is, has a chance to produce tornadoes. And so we're seeing that here with this Louisville South Branch storm. Further south into northern Iowa, though, I mean, these are really interesting cells. I think that some of the storms to watch here will be these. The only thing that's kind of concerning me is just the sheer number of storms that we have. Some recent research shows that storm interactions can be helpful, but the thing here is that these storms are quite large already. They're pretty far from the radar, so it's kind of difficult to tell exactly some of their features. But this storm right here is a left split. So you have the right split down here, and this left split's moving off in this direction. So because of its weird direction and all the other storms are kind of moving like this one has the chance to run into other cells and perhaps cause a problem. This one looks like it also might be primarily left moving. Let's do a radar loop here after I center this, and we'll see. It looks like some of these are struggling to maintain themselves at the moment, but if you watch here, see how this one's like moving almost due north? That's the left split. The right split is even still moving in this direction. It has not developed a really strong mesocyclone yet. So the problem here is that when you are further to the west like this, look at the shear or the winds here in the low levels. You've got more of a southeasterly direction that goes like that further north. But here, this flow is a little bit more like almost southwesterly. And so that's causing a problem. We don't have as good of shear as we do over here. So that means it's going to be harder to develop those mesocyclones that are going to help these supercells live in this particular cluster. It doesn't necessarily mean we give up on them. It's possible that as they move further to the north and to the east, as they get into some of this better flow closer to the warm front, we might actually be able to enhance their ability to gain mesocyclones and perhaps produce a tornado threat.
So looking at those two sets, Kyle, which the ones in southern Minnesota and then those ones in Iowa, because you said you're kind of looking at both of them.
Yeah.
So explain which set of storms is most attractive to you from a tornado standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess in the near term, I'll put it this way. In the near term, it's definitely going to be probably this cell here on the border and this one here, both because they're far enough south from the warm front boundary that they probably won't cross it. But they also have some of the better shear here. I'll kind of outline what I think is the better shear. And there's some upper level analysis here as well that you don't see in this. Probably something like this, so to speak, is probably where some of that better shear is, just south of that warm front and further to the east. So once these storms move into that environment, I think both will have a chance, but in the near term, it's definitely going to be this particular storm here, the Truman-Louisville South Branch storm. And we can look at this in more detail here. But these storms down here, they're clearly attempts at supercells. I think their mode is just not particularly favorable here in the near term. I think as long as we can kind of maintain a few of these cells as they move east into the better shear, of course, we'll also have the low level jet kick up here in the next hour or two as well. I think that should help these cells. So I think in the near term, it's definitely going to be anything in southern Minnesota. In the late term, if you're kind of looking for a long play, something to hang with for an hour or two that might improve, it would definitely be these down here. The one concern I have is when you look at these, let me draw this. So the hodograph is definitely more curved up to the north, and it's a little bit more straight down here. When you have straight hodographs, it's better for splitting storms. And this hodograph up here is better for just the right. So in that case, because the shear is a little bit worse to the south, you have these left splitting storms that are moving this way. So if you get an unfavorable split, it might interfere with some of these northern storms. It's another possibility. I mean, only time will tell at this. I would definitely say near term, these storms here in far southern Minnesota, and then long term, maybe some of these cells here in northern Iowa that as they move east, experience shear.
What else can you tell us, Kyle? We got a couple questions that we'll get to here in just a second. Just a reminder to everybody that's tuning in, if you've got questions for Kyle, whether it's on tonight's active storms or on anything else going on this week, or any chaser questions or meteorological questions, drop them in the office hours questions channel. We'll get to those here in just a second. Kyle, tell us about what else you're seeing in the setup this week with what's going on this week.
Yeah, so I mean, this whole setup this week, it's kind of, it was similar to what it was last week, where you have this kind of continuous ejection of energy, particularly from the southern Rockies, southern and a little bit of the central Rockies as well. And I think one of the big things about going into this week is that we had all of last week to aid in the moisture return. So one thing you don't really want, especially for severe weather events this far to the north and when you get into the Midwest, is you don't want these big crashing systems that go down into the Gulf and kind of sweep some of that moisture out. Of course, as we get further into the spring, through middle and late April here, that becomes less of a factor. When you have these continual kind of patterns where you have this southwesterly flow and that's helping bring up this return flow of moisture and warmth from the Gulf, that's what really helps drive these events further to the north, when you can actually, increase the chance of significant severe. So as we go further into the forecast, I mean, just a very brief overview look that I did this morning. We continue with a lot of that pattern, and we might even have a few better trough ejections, we kind of sort of as we go forward. I would say that the next 2 days definitely have my interest, and that's because I am personally a chaser that enjoys some of the more mesoscale aspects. I think that with the warm front being in play here, as well as like whatever leftover boundaries we might have, particularly in the Midwest over the next couple of days, that has my interest. And I'm just going to pull up something here real fast. As we go into next week, everyone's talking about the trough ejections, right? The trough. What is it? Bad trough ejection, or it's a good trough ejection. A lot of people have been speculating. I think it does look like that as we go into the end of this week, we might have one of the better trough ejections is stronger. Of course, behind that, it might be hard to regain some of our moisture because, again, those bigger trough ejections that you have, the stronger the synoptics are at the ground, that might potentially, wash out moisture or, things of that nature. So I think by the end of the week, the trough ejection that we have kind of onto the central plains and into the Midwest looks pretty good. You've got a lot of speed with that trough. So, I mean, you're going to have a lot of upper level support there. And then, in the next few days, you have a Midwestern threat, and then a lot of that's probably going to be, focused back to the south as well, kind of closer to the high plains, and not necessarily severe weather risk, but at least a thunderstorm risk there in the coming days. And the SPC kind of has that. I mean, if you look and some of their outlooks for tomorrow and into day 3, I mean, you kind of see some of that kind of Rockies risk there, and then the more broad, slight and marginal risks as you go further east. I will say here, Phil, this storm is starting to look pretty nice. We actually do have actual rotation here at the ground, or at least the lowest level. So this is a pretty good sign that this storm might be actually trying to accomplish something.
Yeah, interesting to be watching this here live during your office hours.
This must be what it's like to be Ryan Hall.
You keep it up.
Yeah, I guess what I'd say about this storm at the moment is the nice thing, it's still a very small storm. It doesn't have a lot of mass at the moment. It looks like it's producing a lot of rain. But the point is, if you kind of just draw out the shape here, you have a pretty nice RFD surge that's happening here. And you can see that because the radar is up in this direction, we've got some nice westerlies here, or, I mean, in the real world, this is probably westerlies, but in the case of the radar, you have storms coming down from the northeast here, and it's some kind of inflow. Of course, we know because the radar's going to point this direction. So the point is that we're seeing this nice RFD surge, which actually might be increasing some of our rotation. So we've got a loop coming. So you'll notice it's kind of small, it has that right turn, but now the RFD is finally starting to kick out into that more classic hook shape. It's gotten a little bit beefier. So what the role of the RFD is as it kind of kicks forward like this is along the forward flank and other areas of the storm, you might have like little areas of rotation, little areas of vorticity. This is kind of the streamwise vorticity current stuff. So imagine everywhere along the storm, there's these little lobes of think of them as little gustnadoes, right? Kind of all over the place in the storm. Those, because the updraft is right here, those are being pulled towards the updraft. So as the RFD kicks around, what it actually does is it helps collect all of these little areas of vorticity underneath the meso, which sits here. Once you do that, you are taking all those little areas of vorticity and you're kind of congealing them into one larger area of vorticity that could be stretched upward into a tornado vortex. So that's why we want the RFD to surge. And you'll notice that if we were to step back here, you can see that the rotation increases only as the RFD surges forward. So if you kind of, again, draw this out, you have the forward flank here, and then this is kind of straight, maybe a little bit of an appendage here, but still not a lot of rotation. And then as you draw this forward, now we finally have that classic hook shape here, and you actually have the rotation starting to increase a bit at the ground. Of course, these are a little offset, these two frames here. You get the idea. You have the surging RFD, and then that's RFD is going to help increase that rotation. So yeah, the RFD is the rear flank downdraft. So I'll just kind of draw this out. The way you can figure out where that is the storm is kind of moving off in this direction to some degree. So what you can do is split the storm in half this way, and then split the storm in half. Whoa, that's not right. Let's do it. You kind of split the storm in half this way, split the storm in half kind of this way. So you're kind of like, in this case, it works out because you have these nice, like the flying V shape, right? So this right here would be the forward flank. This right here would be the right flank. This would be the left flank, and this would be the rear flank. So you got two R's here, but this is the rear flank. So the rear flank downdraft is the hook. And so we want that to surge forward. More forward that surge, the better we're going to be at collecting and converging that vorticity. So
I'll tell you this, Kyle. I'll tell you this. Ryan Hall does not explain it like that. Like, yeah. And I love Ryan, but he does not teach you about what's going on with the storm like that. So
I'd imagine most of it
only here, people, only here. Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you.
All right. Yeah, so you were just talking vorticity.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Cultured Robot. It says, I was talking to another person in the chat last night, and he said with his discussion with friends at his AMS chapter, he learned that ingesting vertical vorticity off of boundaries is very weak and doesn't significantly contribute to supercellular tornado genesis. What do you think about this?
I will say two things to that. Number one, I don't think we know completely enough to rule it out. That would require true in situ observations. In situ means like we're there, we're standing in it, measuring it. You know what I mean? And we don't have that. You'd have to have like mesonets driving back and forth, on this boundary as it's being. It's just not possible to have those good observations. However, I do think it's possible. So the idea here is that, and I guess let me ask one clarifying question. Are you talking boundaries in general, or are you talking an internal storm? Because if you're talking a external boundary, that's where I think we don't really know. External storm boundaries play a very bizarre role in tornado genesis, and that role is still a bit of a mystery. It at least contributes to some degree, probably the ingestion of vertical vorticity, such that it's helping the meso, maybe not necessarily tornado genesis, but it definitely, in my opinion, it has some. If you're talking a storm, internal boundary, like the forward flank boundary or something like the left flank boundary or the RFD, I'd argue they have significant importance. There are a number of simulations and field observations as well that reveal that these internal boundaries, in a lot of cases, might be the sole uh, uh, source for vorticity that is ingested by these storms as they become tornado. So I think that there are definitely other ways of getting rotation, and that's not to say that that's the only way, but there's definitely ways to. And in my opinion, the boundaries are incredible.
So he did clarify he's talking about external boundaries like OFBs and differential heating.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think they're really important. I think, again, we don't really know exactly what the role is. There's certainly a observational signal to the fact they're important. I would imagine that the primary way that they are helpful is storm initiation. So if you're able to converge enough up against that boundary, and then of course if you converge air low levels, it's forced to go upwards. If you go upwards, right, you're increasing your vertical motion, maybe helping a storm become tornadic. But of course, in a lot of cases, those also have vorticity on them. Is it a significant enough source? Most boundaries probably are. Some might be. The point is that we just don't know. But there are a lot of boundaries that if you have the right wind shift along them, they probably have significant amount of what we call horizontal shear instability, which just means you've got flow in one direction and flow in another direction kind of up against it. And that's going to induce rotation that can be taken upwards to form. Helps convergence to form storms in the first place, and they can also be used later in the tornado genesis.
All right, there's a reference in the chat that another tornado on the ground in Willow Creek, Minnesota.
Yeah, is that Minnesota?
Yep. Is that the one west?
Must.
That's Warren?
That's Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So, come on, RadarScope. Weatherfront wouldn't be this slow, I can tell you that. So I don't see a Willow Creek here, but
I don't see that either.
Oh, that's boring. I don't have my Twitter pulled up here to see what everybody's seeing at the moment, but I don't see Willow Creek. Hallwood.
On that note, there was a question from Eli. Said, "What's the best weather app available that you use specifically when storm chasing out in the field?"
Well, I've always traditionally been a RadarScope person because, I mean, that's what's always been available. And it's never done me wrong for the most part. I mean, it always has pretty smooth and seamless connectivity when you have internet. It's pretty fast, and it's the basic features, right? It's got everything you need. It was super basic stuff. So I've always been a RadarScope person. However, with the advent of Weatherfront, if, like I said before, if I had a Apple device, I would not have Radar. And I just think that the stuff that Weatherfront offers, the way it offers it, and just how clean and smooth the app is, they're not paying me at all to say this. I can't even use it, but I definitely would if I could. That app is great. I think that for chasing, my personal kind of opinion on that is anything that's easy to use for you in that moment, something you know, something that has the information on it that you want. For me, something that's important is I want to be able to see the radar. I want it to be smooth. I don't want to have to do a bunch of touching and moving around to be able to use it. I like to have roads on it, even if it's not the best map. At least some type of map as a context, kind of situational awareness thing. That really helps. And that's why I like using the satellite view here. Because, okay, I can see I'm coming up on this riverbed now, and that's where the storm is, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think either are good options, but if I had an iPhone, I'd have Weatherfront.
Did you hear they came out now in their mapping? They've got GPS directional.
Yes.
So you could pin this tornado hook right now, wherever you're chasing, pin it, and then boom, it'll give you directions on how to get there.
Yep.
That's
pretty
cool.
I like about Weatherfront is like a significant portion of the Weatherfront data is actually free compared to the stuff that you get from RadarScope for free. Like Lightning, the radar products, which is kind of the same for RadarScope, but the Lightning, the satellite, uh, the dual pane stuff, even some of the models, which on RadarScope either they don't have that or that's something you have to pay for. But again, no hate against RadarScope. It's just Weatherfront has a few extra features and things that I like.
All right. So on that note, I'm going to ask another question. Jen wanted to know, do you pay for one of the pro plans on RadarScope, or is the best app, or I'm sorry, the base app good enough?
The base app is certainly good enough. The one thing about the base app is they don't have, if I remember correctly, they don't have map box on there, which is the super detailed road network map. But it's got all the radar on there that you could need. The base one is perfect. I mean, I used the base one for probably 5 years, going back to maybe it was only 3 or so, going back to like 2014, 2015 or something like that for me. So, yeah, the base app is plenty good. It's perfect. I I like the features that they have because it again adds situational awareness and context to chase, which is very important.
Right. Give us an update what you're seeing right now.
Well, weather service just has a confirmed warning on this one. This is a previous South Branch storm. So this is observed and 2-inch hail in here as well. So this is quite the storm. But yeah, so look at this. It's just south of Good Thunder, Minnesota. That's pretty neat. So anyway, yeah. So this is confirmed. Unfortunately, our velocity data is range folded at the moment, so it's kind of hard to tell. You can still see that we have some blues and reds in here. You've still got this nice hook. I think I would like to see this hook kick around even a little bit more. Something shaped a little bit more like that would probably be better at this point. So I'm sure there's probably some brief action here. I'm not sure how large this tornado is. But there's probably definitely a tornado underneath this at the moment. This one over here is also interesting. It's kind of far from the radar. Let me see if I can. Sioux Falls isn't be any closer. But again, kind of far from the radar. Another appendage here. And I see. Okay, so we do have a nice video there. Just drop in the chat. So yeah, that again. This RFD I think should kick around a little bit more if we're going to keep this thing on the ground long term. But another thing I don't like is we have this cell here in the forward flank. Recent research shows that when we have this, when we're looking at the storm interaction, this goes back to Cameron Nixon's work here, the storm interaction stuff. If you have this supercell, you want storms to be located back here. If you're going to have a storm interaction, you don't want them located in the forward flank or way out in front, because as you're raining right here, you're cooling the temperature. And so that air out here is also what's being fed directly into the updraft region. And you don't want that cooler. So this might have some short-term implications. I doubt that it'll be a long-term thing. I don't think that this is going to kill this supercell in any case, but I do think that maybe has some short-term implications. And I would like to see this RFD. Draw a pencil here. I'd like to see this RFD kick around a little bit more, but it certainly appears to have a decent look at it. Decent look to it, as do a couple of these other storms.
That storm right now, Kyle, that's the one that apparently is the video. Amboy,
Okay.
Minnesota.
Yep, Amboy, yep. Okay.
From Ben Williams. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that looks about right. Yeah, it's a pretty it's not a terribly large tornado. I can't tell how strong it is there, but typically the larger or stronger tornadoes, you have this RFD kick around a little bit more. That's what we'll want to see. It looks like that report just came in as well. Fire department issued that. So anyway, yeah, that storm's looking good. These storms here in northern Iowa to the south, again, just big kind of mess here. What I could see falling out of this is probably a large HP supercell. A lot of times, and this is kind of an anecdotal thing, there's not necessarily a lot of research that shows this, but when you have a lot of these cells that are kind of just situated near each other and they all eventually start to converge, what I can see coming out of this just needs to be more. We haven't had that really since the TwistX days. We haven't had a lot of RFD analysis, so or real time on the ground analysis. So it would be nice to see some of that. So hopefully, we can see a bit of that in the future. And I think that's something that they would be able to accomplish if they were to do it.
What's do you know what their latest project is coming out of Colorado with
I do know.
the Dows? And I know I had heard they were starting another one. I don't recall
Yeah, I
what the
think there's
focus
always
next focus was. Yeah, I don't think it's Vortex level stuff, but as far as numbers of vehicles and data collection, but
my understanding is that there was also possibly a part 2 to Ice Chip this year. I don't know if that was actually funded or if that's a go for this year or if that's going to be next year, but I think Ice Chip was planning on a part 2, just a smaller thing. What I was told is it's Ice Chip part 2, but it's not really Ice Chip. So I don't really know what that means or if that's happening this year, but
it's a prequel. That's what
yeah.
it's part 0.5.
Yeah.
It's a prequel. So let me know what how late you're expecting some of this severe stuff to last into the evening, Kyle. If you can kind of take a look at what you're looking at as you're going, into the evening hours to determine that.
Yeah. I mean, so I'll just kind of start here in this kind of northern mode. Let me throw well, let's see what I got. Start with this. So just looking at the composite again, you have a large area of severe storm, really large area of severe storms. And the important takeaway here is, let me turn some crap, make this a bit easier to see. This large area of severe storms, you have the warm front stuff, right? This is going to keep going more than likely. This will continue to track east and northeast. And then you have this dry line here. It might be difficult to get stuff to fire on this dry line the later you go, because the later you go, you start to lose heating. And as that happens, it's going to be a lot harder to break the cap that's starting to form at the same time. So imagine that this cluster will continue to develop and move east. Hopefully we see it, I guess, for chasers, hope that we're able to see it kind of organize a little bit better into maybe one or two semi-discrete storms at least. I would pretty much imagine that this entire complex continues. And if you look at any of the models, you can actually see it continuing pretty much into tomorrow. So this is a bit of a big deal here as far as the training. So we have the severe weather threat, but you also have this training convection here going into Minnesota and Wisconsin and even into the UP here. This is going to be a lot of rainfall for these areas. A lot of these storms are quite heavy. So that's going to be a risk into the overnight hours as well. You have a little bit of kind of isolated convection back here in Nebraska. I think the stuff that was going on further north here in South Dakota, it's pretty much done here. It was snowing up here earlier in my neck of the woods, just outside of Grand Forks in North Dakota earlier. So that's great. We're just not going to pretend that's for a couple more weeks here. And then further to the south, if this ever loads, you have this one storm here in Kansas. I doubt that much more of the dry line really initiates. What I could see here, at least in the near term, the next maybe hour or two, is that this storm continues to evolve a little bit. And as long as it's not terribly capped, I could see it continuing to move off to the east-northeast here. And then potentially, as the low-level jet kicks in a little bit, we might be able to see a little bit more of a tornado risk. I know it's tornado warned at the moment. It might continue to evolve and become a little bit more efficient at its process. Oklahoma, I mean, we have not seen the dry line initiate. The dry line looks like it's somewhere down through here, maybe. I don't see really anything on it. There's maybe a blip here just outside of Wichita Falls. There's been some supercells down here in Texas. They'll probably start to diminish here in the next couple hours. There's not a lot of synoptic support. The thing you need in the overnight hours is synoptic support. So those overnight QLCSs that we see all the time in the south, or these big complexes that develop and move through the plains, you need some kind of synoptic support to maintain those. And in this case, we don't have that further to the south. So that will most likely continue to kind of die out here as we go through the rest of the the evening here as we lose diurnal heating. I kind of forgot about Illinois here. There's not a lot happening anymore in Illinois. This complex continues to race east through northern Indiana and Ohio. That'll probably continue to do so. There's a little bit of synoptic support there. A little bit of action here in Michigan. These cells will probably just kind of continue to fade as we lose diurnal heating. But this is definitely the main risk. And I would see this because you have that synoptic support here. The jet is kind of like this right now. You're going to continue to have this development or at least sustainment of this convection as it moves to the east and north. So, and again, those severe risks, as it cools down, as a warm front maybe surges south and becomes a little bit more of a cold front, these will continue to probably produce hail, a little bit of wind, and then definitely some heavy rain, especially some heavy rain up here, well north of that warm front where you have this screen. I'd say that's kind of a drive by.
Let's no, that's good. Let's continue though now into the next couple of days, because I know it's staying relatively. I mean, if you're chasing, this is actually good because you're not driving huge distances day after day after day after day, because it's going to be very close. So maybe if you can just go through now what this is going to look like tomorrow, what this is going to look like the next day, hit that up as well, because I think people will be interested to know. All right, if I'm chasing right now today, how do I start thinking about where I'm going tonight and tomorrow night, etc.
So let's see if this works. Okay, can you still see that?
Yeah, I got the SBC. Okay. Yep.
So this is day one, right? Of course, there's your tornado threat. But we have the risk here in Minnesota into Wisconsin, and then the lighter risk here as you go into pretty much the dry line. So I expect that tonight this dry line risk will die up pretty quick, but this will probably be maintained to some degree as you go through the rest of the overnight hours. But like you said, it's pretty active. Let's look at our convective outlooks here over the next couple of days. Day two here, so that synoptic support that was currently kind of over the central parts of the northern plains, that shifts east just a little bit, and so does the risk for severe storms. The very interesting thing about this pattern, when you have this continued kind of flow from the southwest, you typically have a synoptic to the north in the Midwest, and then you also have that dry line set up. And you can see pretty much this entire 2% is encapsulating the dry line extent, basically from Iowa all the way down. Looks like the highest probs that the SPC is given right now is on the dry line in Oklahoma. There's probably a little bit of synoptic support there as well. Without even looking at anything, that's my guess. And then as you go into the wind and hail, you can continue to see the dry line threat and the synoptic threat up north, another 10%, 1 sig that they have up there in parts of Iowa and into Illinois. So again, a warm front type situation. The day three outlook, again, same sort of situation. Maybe the synoptics aren't as great here into day three, but you still have a slight risk here. And you have the another sig here along the dry line into Kansas and Oklahoma. So we continue with this kind of never-ending pattern. And I'll pull up some data here. Let's look at. We'll start with COD satellite. So of course, you always want to start with your observations, kind of get us a look at what things are doing at the moment. So let me pull up. This is a great little tool here. This is the 500 millibar analysis and satellite. So there's your 500 millibar. And I'll turn on, let's do a mid-level water vane, so you can kind of see our systems here. So again, you have the 500 millibar heights. You have the southwest flow coming out of the Rockies here. You have this trough that's developing out west. And so all of this stuff is going to kind of move and drift off into the plains and then continue east. And this is just at 500 millibars. There's a whole jet and everything else along. So we turn this back on here, and I'll kind of let this play. You can see our storms up here in Minnesota and all that. This will continue to move to the east in the warm frontal boundary that we have kind of situated over the Midwest. That'll stay there for tomorrow. Let me jump over to our sea level pressure here, and I'll turn this off. So you can see there's our low, right? And looks like the first frame here is kind of wonky, but you have that low, and that warm front that's associated with that low is going to continue to kind of move to the east here. You can see kind of where that's draped up through parts of Minnesota. That'll drift east for tomorrow's risk. What we could do is actually look at some models here too real fast. So I'll just keep it simple.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you going to use? What are you going to use?
Yeah. So in my opinion, anything that's a larger resolution is best for Synoptic, because stuff like the HER and the 3 kilometer NAM, they can actually, there can be low level feedbacks that go up into the atmosphere and kind of make things look wonky. So I actually like looking at the broad scale pattern first with the GFS. This helps me get just a basic sense of things. So we start up top. Here's your jet. Okay, so this is the southwest flow we've been talking about, from the Southern Rockies up into the Midwest. And I'll pull up something else here real quick that I want to show you. The important thing about looking at the flow, and and this is true for all levels, but especially in the middle levels and down in the low levels, is you're actually able to identify the air mass that you're going to be dealing with in the next couple of days. So I want to pull up something I shared earlier. So hopefully you'll be able to see this. Should be a Twitter post. So I'll actually open the image here. So this right here, this is a composite. Can you see that, Phil?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this kind of light blue, like cyan color here, the thicker lines on the skew T, this is a observation from Omaha, Nebraska. So this is essentially the precursor to today's, this kind of thicker temperature over here, dew point here. And these other lines in the background is temperature on the right, dew point on the left for other profiles the night before. The profiles that we have in the blue are the Omaha, Nebraska 18Z observation. So essentially what the environment was today before storms initiated. Last night at Amarillo, Texas, last night at North Platte, Nebraska, last night at Dodge City, Kansas. Look at how similar the temperature is right here and the height of where that is. So that's the EML. We talk about the cap. The cap was embedded into Nebraska and Iowa and Minnesota from places like Western Nebraska, Kansas, and Texas. Well, if we look at the flow, if you start up here, where does that flow take? If you go backwards, it goes all the way. You have flow down here into Western Nebraska. You've got it into Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. So what this is telling us is that the air mass that is causing today's severe weather event originated in part from the Southwest where we have this flow. So if we drag this forward to look at tomorrow, so this is essentially tomorrow's event, we still have that same sort of pattern where we're getting this kind of elevated mixed layer cap sort of environment coming in from the Southwest. It looks like our flow compared to today will even be stronger as we go into the evening. So that's something to keep in mind. And then as we just kind of continue to drag this out, that one trough lifts north. And that kind of might reduce our probabilities a little bit as we go into Thursday. But then as we continue into end of the week, this is Friday and into Saturday, that is a pretty decent looking trough there that ejects onto the plains. And as it moves into the Midwest, that's pretty nice. And the other thing here is because we have this continued southwest flow, if you look at how long the dew point sticks, it's just up there, bacon. And then you finally have that big trough, and there goes that washout that I was talking about before. You get this big system that comes through, washes those dew points all the way back down to the Gulf, and it's going to take us a couple days to build that dew point back up as we go in Fantasyland. But wow, I mean, that would be a big deal if we get some 40s all the way up the high plains into Southern Canada. But anyway, the point is you have this reservoir of really, really high moisture in the low levels that's just sitting here into the southwest flow. This right here has my particular interest, and I'm just going to do a no-no here and just blindly take a sounding from the GFS at like a 300 hours or whatever. So this is forecast here. Oh, it doesn't tell me up here. Oh, forecast hour 100 too. So this is a nice environment. You've got a little bit of a cap here. Decent low levels, not too much moisture, not too little moisture. Really nice flow. So I mean, this is Saturday or a Friday night rather. So this is actually going to be a pretty significant, just based on this one run of the GFS. This could be a pretty significant environment for SIG severe here across the plains. This is kind of your classic setup for a combination of maybe Dryline, Synoptic, support aloft, and then probably some mesoscale stuff along the Dryline as well. So in the near term here, in the next few days going into the weekend, I mean, this is a really, really potent environment. I know a lot of folks were kind of worried that this tornado season wasn't going to work out very well. However, the thing here is only a couple of days of a favorable pattern can be enough to change how we think how a season evolves. And so this couple of days here, even though storms haven't been that great compared to like 2024 and 2020. You still have severe events occurring here. So.
I mean, this the question I've got. I have never seen, Kyle, the composite QT. Where did you find that? I've never seen that. That could be very helpful. Although the photograph looks a little messy, but certainly the QT, that I could see a huge benefit.
Yeah. So this is created by SounderPie here. So this is the SounderPie sounding source here. So this particular plot, this is made with the SounderPie code. So this isn't on a website anywhere, unfortunately, at the time working on it. That might be something coming in the future here. But
so this is you?
Yeah. Yes. So SounderPie is mine.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So
that's why I haven't seen it before.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
You got a corner of the market there. You got to get that sucker out. Get that
a little bit. Yeah,
cashing some checks.
If you know how to code and you have the time to sit down and do it, this stuff is all available in the code. The SounderPie website it's not available on yet. I've been thinking about the right way to do this, and hopefully might have something out soon. I don't know how soon. Hopefully, but yeah, this is a great way to kind of figure out either how something is evolving with time or where air masses are coming from and that sort of thing. Thanks, Phil.
Like it. Very get that sucker going, baby.
Yeah.
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
So yeah, I don't know how much work is being done at the moment, but my understanding is that Chaser coaching Discord bots might evolve to include soundings at some point. We're working on. I don't know.
Gosh, I didn't even know there was a bot. There's a bot, or it's coming.
You're making it. Yes.
You're making the bot. Okay.
Hopefully that is something that comes.
That's for you smart people to come up with that stuff. We just get to pay for it and use it all.
Yeah, there you go.
That's good. All right. Go ahead.
To add here real fast, this is actually kind of an interesting situation that we have here. That's so this tornado warning storm. One thing I said before is that I'd like to see this hook kick out a little bit, so it may look something like that. One thing you'll notice,
I still see your composite SKUT.
Oh shoot!
Just quick change that up.
Yeah. So I was saying before that we want that hook to really kick out. And
there we go.
Okay, so we want that hook to kick out. That's not going to work. We want this hook over here to kick out, and it really hasn't yet. It's kind of just been sitting to the side, but I want it to do that. You know what I mean? One thing that's interesting here is we have this storm kind of coming in from behind, and if I do this, yeah. So I guess I can give a little spoiler on some of the work that I'm doing for my master's right now. This is a continuation of stuff that Cameron found observationally. In my work, we're looking at particularly the storm that comes in from the backside, and we're focused on the tornado possibly here. Okay, so this storm is coming into the backside of this storm. This is essentially the nudger. Right? Well, we're trying to figure out why the nudger seems to work, essentially. And what might be happening is the storm behind, or this storm back here, is actually depositing its hydrometeors, or rain, snow, hail, ice, graupel, anything falling from the sky. It's actually depositing it into the backside of this storm. So if we go to regular reflectivity at the lowest level, you might say, okay, I see a little bit of reflectivity here. It doesn't look like a lot. You might not even notice it at first. If you have the expert mode reflectivity on, you might not even see it, or if you don't. However, if you look at composite reflectivity, you'll actually notice that there is a stream in these kind of like almost green colors here of hydrometeors, or something that radar's picking up, right? In this case, it's probably ice or snow or something, because we're looking at an elevated level. We're actually seeing that this storm is essentially, quote unquote, raining on or seeding the storm here in front. So I would argue that in the near term, the behavior of this storm might change in a way such that this RFD kicks out a little bit more, and we might actually be a little bit more efficient at the tornado genesis process. A lot of other things have to be in place for that to happen. One thing that's interesting to me is this. I don't know if this is actually a northeast wind here, or if the storm did that. If this is north of the front, then forget everything.
Mm.
If it's still south of the front, then it's possible that this storm back here to the southwest will nudge the storm in front by way of what we think is the nudge is actually just one storm is raining on the other one. So if the hook is having a hard time kicking out, well, if you put more rain on it, it kicks. If you think about it, Phil, if you've been chasing, you might have said a storm is outflow, right?
Mhm.
Outflow, it's cold. That means all that air that was back in the RFD surged too far forward. It was really rainy. Like think about an HP storm.
Right.
Well, if you don't have enough, then you're maybe not going to surge at all. So there might need to be a balance between just enough of that cool rain to kick the RFD forward, not too much to send it too far, but also
I
enough
got
so
it.
that it doesn't
Okay.
stay tucked in that flow. So
you're thinking that's going to help create some additional surge and energy forward.
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
absolutely.
That,
So
that makes
we're
more sense.
hoping to kind of build some observations. So this is all based on simulation data that I do, or simulations that I do, but we're looking at some observational examples of this, and this could be one. If this storm is actually still south of the warm front, I'm not quite sure if it is, just because this observation is east here. But if it is actually still south of the warm front, it's possible that this storm back here could.
Well, we know what Kyle's going to be doing as soon as we get off the office hours, what he's going to be watching. I do have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
For you while you're checking that out. Jen wants to know, is there a good place to pull random soundings from models?
So if you want absolute randomness, just Pivotal Weather's the best because it has her soundings. Why COD still doesn't have her soundings, I'll never understand. But Pivotal Weather's probably the best for random model soundings. SounderPie also does have model soundings, but they're for particular buff kit sites. So what that means is I can actually just.
I think Weatherfront's got her soundings.
Weatherfront does, and that is a free feature. That is a ridiculous free feature. So I'll just show you real fast. This is the. So this is the SounderPie website. So you can select a. I'll share ACARS as an example. Not a lot of people know this exists. So, ACARS are observations taken by aircraft as they depart or arrive at airports. So let me go back to 23Z. So this is all in Zulu time, but so this is an hour ago. Hit available profiles, and it'll show me airports that have recent profiles. I don't know if there's going to be anything in here in particular relevant to us. Here's an Omaha sounding. So this is for anywhere that had a recent aircraft departure. So you just click this, and that will make a sounding. Sometimes it's a little slow. It's not as fast as the fancy servers they got over there at Weatherfront, but it does get the job done. But you'll notice, to answer your question, there is this models page. The models are going to be her RAP, NAM, GFS, 3 kilometer NAM, and there's a couple others in there, but you can only get them at specific locations. You can't get them at like anywhere in the United States at a point click. So there it is. This is an aircraft sounding from Omaha at 2309Z. And the forecast models. So the forecast model page looks like this. There's going to be a map that pops up. These are all the areas that you can get forecasts for.
Cool.
So you could just go in here. All you have to do is click one of these dots. Hit this, and it'll tell you, okay, I copied that, and you can just paste it right here. So that's the site ID. This is the forecast model. So you could pick like the her or the wrap or whatever. We could just get the most recent her forecast hour 0. So it'd be like an analysis, get that sounding there, and it'll make it. There's also a lot of settings in here. So EK, only the photograph. You could put a little boundary on the photograph. You can change the right moving or left moving storm. You can modify the surface. You can add radar to a little map pop up in the corner. There's all kinds of neat things you could do on here. But yeah, this is SounderPie, so where you can get all that stuff. It's a plug. I just did a plug there. But there are definitely better options for just anywhere soundings, pivotal weather.
Not for the average Ryan Hall viewer.
Maybe not.
Probably.
Maybe.
Not for the average Joe.
There's your sounding right now from.
But wow, that's pretty kick-ass, Kyle. That's good. I like it. That's
fun fact. Actually, those weather front soundings, they're sounded by sounding. So this might look familiar.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
I don't know how this is going to work here. Let's see. I guess we're just going to do a little weather front demo. Where's John at?
Right.
They don't have any pictures of... Oh, here we go. I don't know if I'm going to be able to zoom this in or not, but up there, built with SharpEye and Sounder. So any of that
there you
familiar,
go. That's cool.
So
interesting.
Yeah, I guess you can get it on weather front right there. But
very good. All right. Well, I think Kyle, that's good for our office hours. It was this was fun because we had live stuff. This was I'll be honest, this was the best office hours I've been able to be a part of, just because of the fact that we had you analyzing live weather, what's going on and why it's going on.
I'll tell you what, I mean, I think in the future, I had to do some work today. I had a busy week, so I wasn't able to make it down into southern Minnesota. I think next time maybe I would have. So I can't say what our coach availability will be on days like this in the future.
True.
But
that's true.
I'm sure somebody somewhere will be ready. But yeah, I think this is really fun. It's a nice way to talk about the things we're coaching in real time, so to speak, and actually apply some of the ideas. This is great. I hope we get to do this again.
Well, hey, big +2 to Jen and Leo. They're the ones that have been with us since hour number 1. They've been hanging out. Looks like 51 Chara's just joined us recently, but Jen and Leo, thanks for hanging in to the end. If you're not a subscriber, guys, subscribe to the Chaser Academy, $7.20 a month. You're going to catch all the individual coaching that all of our great coaches provide, and you can look back on all the previous coaching sessions they've done as well. Will be available to you on Discord. These office hours are free and fun, but the really deep dives are all available in that as well. So our next group coaching is going to be Thursday with Ethan Moriarty, 8:00 p.m. on the 16th. So he's coming up here in just a couple of days. So again, another reason to subscribe if you're not. But Kyle, any parting words?
Gosh, I'll say the best way to learn anything about storm chasing is to watch these things happen in real time on your couch. As these things happen, just kind of look at the radar, watch how things evolve. Watch to see how, when storms interact in each other, how do they change? How do storms get better as the evening comes and the old Jack kicks in or whatever. Just watch things, take notes in real time. Everything that you ingest will help you as a chaser. And like you said before, Phil, it's a spring. It's a time. Everything we've been doing for the last couple months comes to a head right now. So this is the time to start paying attention to things and getting ready for your chance to get out and do it yourself.
Yep, this is exciting time. So Kyle, good stuff. This was great tonight. I'm even more excited about the stuff you got coming out. So good stuff, brother. Great job. And we'll see you next time, okay?
Thanks.
All right, take care, everybody.